helmets. I'll be brief on this as I will touch on the other ones, but again, I think it's important to realize that this was the first performance standard ever done by IAFF. In 1978 this came out. It was the 1972 standard. It was the first time that NFPA wrote a standard that nobody met. There was not one helmet on the market that anyone met. And again, I give a lot of credit to Pete Coombs. Fortunately, Pete was Chris Coombs' father. He was the head of Carnes & Brother at the time out of Clifton, New Jersey. I know that quite well because that's where I was, my folks lived, and that's where I was born a few years back. But their manufacturing process at that time was there. And Pete was the guy that really led the standard. You can talk to Bruce, who was Bruce Teal, that was on that project at that time. And there was for the first time a manufacturer stood up and said, if that's what the fire service wants, that's what we'll meet. None of my helmets meet that standard, but if that's what they want to do that. And it was the first time we had a performance standard on there. I talk about monkey protection on here because I think it's important to tell this particular historical or hysterical perhaps story. Much of the work done on helmets, at least in protection factor, was done for motorcycles. And there was a study done that we looked at in the Project Project Fires program not long ago, where we actually there was a university that actually made helmets for monkeys. And they put the helmets on the monkey, and they put them on a sled and they bashed them into the wall. We wanted to do the same thing with firefighters. They wouldn't let us, so we had to rely on the monkey protection. The fact is, that's how standards were written. The universities came out and said, you know, we had the monkeys put a helmet on, we bashed the monkeys on the wall, and this is what we need for protection. We said just the opposite. And in fact, that's what we did in the standard setting process with NFPA, and especially in the early Project Fires program. We said, you know, the monkey stuff is important. And again, some engineer will understand that. But we don't, that's not understandable to us in the fire service. What we want is a helmet that a firefighter will wear, and if a brick falls off a two-story building and hits him in the head or her in the head, we want them protected by that. You now tell us how many foot-pounds of energy that is or what the standard is, but that's what we want to protect for. And I think that's an important thing to remember because that's how we write all our standards now. We had the fire service coming into the room and saying, hey, I don't want to walk into outside a building, have a brick fall, 2 stories, hit me in the head, and I'd be injured. I want to walk away from that. I want to make sure my head's not cut. I want to make sure my head's not bashed in. I want to make sure my neck isn't twisted over. I want to make sure that I'm protected from that. You, the engineers, you, the manufacturers, tell me what that protection factor is, and we've done that. And if you look at the NFPA standards and go through each and every section, there's a firefighter that said that section, that we need that protection on there. And I think that's very, very important to remember. The manufacturers didn't read it. They may have originally had a lot of influence, but today's age, the process is the firefighters that actually have to wear that particular gear. So a couple of the other issues on there, leather forever issue, it was an incredible battle that people said, you're never going to take my leather helmet from my cold dead fingers or something like that, whatever it was. We've gone through that issue. There are leather helmets that meet the standard. I guess someone's still making them, and they're making them available. But I could tell you the horror stories with that, and they attack the people that believe that their leather helmets were the only things that firefighters wear, instead of the other helmets that were coming into play in the early 80s, were the only issue. Well, in fact, we got through that. We got through it with the standard. The manufacturers that make a leather helmet meet the NFPA process right now. And again, if you want to wear a 5-pound helmet on your head, a leather helmet, they are readily available. And then the final major historical and a really hysterical issue was the whole issue of firefighter face shields. Again, the fire service came to the NFPA in the NFPA process and said the only thing that face shields are doing in the helmets of today was to protect the front of your head, because that's where the helmets were always were. The face shields, excuse me, was where they were always up. And then when you ever needed them, when you pulled them down, you couldn't see through them anyway, because they were either melted, they were deformed, or they were just sooted up. And we spent years on this particular issue, and finally got to the point that there were other options out there, whether it be goggles, whether it be better face face shields. We worked on deploying them within the helmet. We're not there yet, but someday that'll come out. There'll be better helmets there, but we did spend a lot of time through that particular process.